Shalom, shalom chaverim. Today, the Torah portion of Yitro. We're going to do it together with Rabbi Bechaya ibn Pakuda in his book Chovot Alvavot. I'm going to elaborate more on that, but before that, as you can probably see, a change of scenery. I'm here in my backyard in Los Angeles, and I wanted to display the shkediya, or the almond tree. We just earlier this week celebrated the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, and the symbol of Tu B'Shvat in Israel is the blossom of the almond tree. The blooming shkediya is the symbol of Tu B'Shvat. So it really brings a lot of joy in my heart that right on Tu B'Shvat, right on time, our shkediya, our almond tree, has blossomed. So I'm very happy to sit here with it as we talk about the Torah portion. Okay, let me begin by a quote from Chovot Alvavot, and we'll elaborate later. The plain meaning of abstinence is to bridle the inner lusts and to refrain from something that one has the ability and opportunity for due to a reason which obligates this. It is said, the abstainer is one who has the power but does not use it. All right. So as said, this quote is taken from the book Chovot Halvavot, which translates to the duties of the heart. It was written in the year 1080. So we're talking medieval Spain, by Rabbi Bechaya ibn Pakuda of Saragossa. And Chovot Alvavot, or Duties of the Heart, is a groundbreaking book. And it's a groundbreaking book because it did something that really divested from what up until then was revolving around Jewish thought, and that is really that most literature dealt with the technicalities of halakha, of law, of how to fulfill the mitzvot, what to do, what not to do, debates around it, as we all know. But this here was the first book that suddenly dealt with something else. Not with our physicality, not with practicality, but with the soul. With the soul, with the heart, with basically what is ought to be as far as human behavior. What are the traits of the ideal human? It's the first book that really centralized virtues. And that started a genre in Jewish literature which is known as the literature of Musar, or Musar, as some of you may pronounce it. And Musar translates to ethics. And this book is considered the first book of Musar, the first book of ethics. Just kind of like real quick, the fashion of the day, if you will, was Neoplatonism, which was basically a type of philosophy that did focus more on spirituality, on unifying the world through the descendants of spirituality. So this really was on par with the zeitgeist of the day. Okay, so the book was written in Judeo-Arabic. It was translated to Hebrew by Ibn Tibbon, the same translator that brought us Maimonides' Guide for the Perplexed. And it is divided into 10 chapters that Bechaya is calling 10 gates, or she'arim. And today I'd like to focus on only one out of the 10 gates, the 9th gate, which is the gate of abstinence, or in Hebrew, Sha'ar HaPrishut. And I'm interested in exploring abstinence today because of the end of our Torah portion, actually, Yitro. Yitro is a Torah portion that's very famous for, this is when the 10 commandments are given. And what is interesting is that right after the 10 commandments are given, in a very dramatic display of divinity, of smoke and voices, and right after this dramatic moment, Moses approaches the fog, and God tells him the following verses, and these verses actually end the portion. So God tells Moses, מזבח אדמה תעשה לי, וזבחת עליו את עולותיך ואת שלמך, את צונך ואת בקרך בכל המקום אשר אזכיר את שמי, אבוא אליך וברכתיך. Which means you shall make me an altar of earth, of dirt. And this is where you would bring all your offerings, and wherever you go, I will remind you my name, I will come to you and I will bless you. And it continues, ואם מזבח אבנים תעשה לי, לא תבנה את הן גזית, כי חרבך הנפת עליה ותחלליה. But if you decide to build an altar out of stone, make it out of soft stone, so you would not use your sword to build it and will profane it. Okay, so right after the 10 Commandments, what's interesting is that suddenly God gives Moses something else. Not so much rules to follow, but more of a code of conduct, how to behave. And the center here, or the core, is simplicity. God prefers that the altar would be made out of earth, out of dirt, right? The Kli Yakar, which is commentary written by Rabbi Shlomo Ephraim ben Aaron Lunchitz, and by the way, Kli Yakar, which is how he is known, is a beautiful Torah commentary if you want to visit it. He says this, הורה בזה שרצה אדוני להראות במזבח זה ענייני ענווה, והחרב עניינו גאווה. Okay, Kli Yakar is saying, he instructed that what God wanted to show at the altar is a matter of humility, and the sword is a matter of pride. So here God says, carry yourself with simplicity, with humility, basically stone, metal, iron is a symbol of pride. So this made me think, what does our tradition have to say about abstinence, about simplicity? And generally, we're not for it, okay? Generally, the whole idea of abstinence is not something that is so welcome in our tradition. And in fact, the Talmud even goes as far as to basically make it a sin. In our tradition, when we are commanded, Kedoshim tiyu, you shall be holy, what it means is that we should not withdraw from the world, we should be involved with it. It's the opposite. Kedoshim tiyu, meaning we should stay in this world and work really hard to make it holy, not withdraw from it. And here is a quote from Ta'anit, from the Talmud, really saying it's a sin, right? Whoever sits in a fast is called a sinner. But with what soul did this sin? Rather, by distressing himself when he abstained from wine, and if one who distresses himself only from wine is called a sinner, one who distresses himself from each and every matter, all the more so. So basically, they say that if you avoid wine, distressing yourself, it's a sin. So if that is a sin, it's a kal vachomer thing. If that is a sin, then imagine someone who abstains from everything. That's a really big sin, okay? So not for it. Interestingly enough, Chovot Alvavot, the Duties of the Heart, this book of Rabbi Bechaye, is actually one of the only cases that favor abstinence. But still, it's a type of abstinence that is very moderate and very, very beautiful. Okay, so what is the argument of Bechaye when he talks about abstinence? So he says, look, God gave us, people, lust, okay? He gave us, and it was deliberate, okay? God gave us lust for food, for sex, for power, and that lust was given to us in order so we will build the world, okay? We needed the motivation to build the world, and so we were rewarded with pleasure that we get out of food, or when we procreate, or when we build something great. And that pleasure was the reward which enabled the world's creation and made us partners in the world's creation. What was the problem? The problem started when people started to get addicted to that reward instead of to creation itself. Basically, people started prioritizing the pleasure, which was the reward for creation instead of creation, right? So the pleasure from food is what became important and not the actual eating of it to remain healthy. The pleasure from sex was prioritized over what that was supposed to do to us creating relationship, etc., etc. So Bechaya explains that abstinence is needed to basically bring back that balance out of that addiction to pleasure. However, Bechaya recognizes that building the world is very, very important. So his idea is not that everybody will abstain from the world, but that there will be a selected few who would be like professional abstainers. Just like there are, doctors and scientists, there will be professional abstainers, and they will have two roles. The first would be to help heal those who got addicted to pleasure too much. So if you want, those will be therapists of those times. He actually calls them healers. Rofim is in the translations. It's like doctors, healers. And they would actually have sessions with those addicted to pleasure and help them regain their balance. And the second role is that by them abstaining from certain things, they will serve as model and inspiration for everyone else, looking at them and saying, actually, I don't need all of these and this and this and this and this. I can actually live in a simpler way. Look at this person and how they live simply. And Bechaya describes three types of abstinence. He said there's three groups of people. The first group are the people who really withdraw from the world completely. Basically, those who retire to the mountains and live off of the land and the, hunters, gatherers, and really refuse to be involved with anything that has to do with the world, right? And today we will think about people who decide to completely live off the grid, if you will. The second group of abstainers is the group that stays in society, but still, while living in society, visibly avoiding abstaining from most of it, right? Avoiding any type of involvement while they are here. So it's almost kind of like a display, right, of abstinence. It's kind of like Diogenes, right, living in a tub and displaying their abstinence. And the third group are the people who are actually involved with the world, stay with the world, but they abstain only in their hearts. Now, for the first two groups, Rabbi Bechaya really criticizes them. He said they are selfish, they are egotistical. By their withdrawal from the world, those who do it completely really only think of themselves, adding nothing to the world. And those who remain in society but visibly abstaining from everything are just doing it for display and for ego and for power and for attention. And he really criticizes the two groups. The group that Bechaya prefers is the group that stays within society, that helps building and being 100% involved in the physicality of society, but are withdrawn only in their hearts. And in his words, he's saying, Haparush, basically the abstainer, Tzahalato befanav ve'evlo belibo. Beautiful. What it means is his joy is on his face and his sorrow is in his heart. Now, I think it's a really mind-blowing concept. I mean, what does it mean to abstain only in your heart? I mean, how can we maintain the forces of creation that we have without abusing the pleasures that they bring? So very similar to the Rambam, and this was another fashionable Aristotelian thing, if you will. Bechaya also thinks that the golden path is the middle path, right? So he actually calls it Haderech HaToriyah, which translates to the proper Torah way, which basically would bring people back to enjoy creation for creation's sake, and always find the balance of kind of staying away from the pleasures, but still keeping the motivation to create. And I think that to our lives, as we mentioned before, what does it mean? What does it mean to be prushim in our hearts, to stay involved in society, but to abstain in our hearts? So it might mean that we will eat in order to keep healthy, and that we will have sexual relations in order to maintain and create beautiful romantic relationships, and that when we create something great, it wouldn't be for the power in being recognized from it, but it would be for the sake of adding abundance to the world. And I think that his ideas might be more relevant to us today than ever, because our arrogance and our addictions to pleasure diverted us from our true roles as creators. And Rabbi Bechaya warns us that the higher we build, the lower is the abyss which opens in our souls. And he puts it in a beautiful, beautiful words that I want to share with you. וכל אשר נוסף העולם יישוב, נוסף שכלם חורבן. The more their world was improved, the greater was the destruction of their understanding. Shabbat Shalom.